Hi, and welcome to another session of What Is That Player Doing? In this case, we've got Carl from Minneapolis asking, what do I do when I start? Well, what you can do is go make yourself available at the carrot farm and start gathering carrots. Oh yeah, I love carrots. Look at me frolicking carrots. Nothing wrong will happen here. Oh, what's going on? What's going on? You lied to me. Why was I hurt? Now, has this ever happened to you where you've gone in Feist and you got served by a spider or some other mob? Well, what if I told you there's this revolutionary item called armor that could help you? Oh, and enchantments. Yeah, let's talk about that, shall we? Hello everyone, welcome to another episode on Skyblock Sun on the Siblings Den channel. My name is Wingless, and yeah, literally, just get armor. But I'll explain a little bit more what's going on, especially this season. They've kind of changed how armor works in general, but a lot of people I've been speaking with, especially newer players, aren't really aware of how to handle things and what would be the best bet of how to protect yourself. And given that PvE is slightly different than the dungeon and vice versa, it's worth reviewing a little bit and getting an idea of what's needed and where do you go from there before you eventually get better items and better armor, either from auction house or from other means. So let's get started. Now, when you start, what you can do is check your inventory, and usually you'll already get some kits available for you. But if you don't have any kits there, what you could do is /kits. And here, you will always have the first one, a member's kit. It's redeemable every 30 minutes, and this is something that you can have when you start. If you've progressed a while and you started gaining some ranks and gaining some levels, what you could do is /kits. You could see all of these other kits that you can get from the ranks that you've achieved, starting from Epic and then moving up as high as it goes up. And this will go all the way up to Hercules. And all these kits not only give you a decent upgraded armor to work with, but also it'll get you a pouch every 24 hours to let you gain a little bit of resources moving forward. So this is very useful. The pouch is only acquired by the ones that have ranks, not the member one that you start with. But all this is to say that you will start getting something to protect yourself at first without doing anything else with it. Now, your kits are going to look like this. It'll be an armor note, and then when you right click, you'll redeem your basic armors from this. In this example, I've grabbed one of the armor notes for Legend, and we'll see what this one offers you. When you open it, you get yourself basic armor that gives you already protection 2, some unbreaking, and basic tools that can be utilized. Also, what you get is enchanted golden apples and regular apples. These are useful as well when you stack up and want to get yourself healing when you're in a dungeon, and then basic steak, which, to be frank, I don't use at all, but it's good to have if you're already overly using it. But with this, you're already given basic tools, and then you can pick your gear of which one you would prefer to have for your damage. And just this alone will give you a start on handling things that you need to do in either the dungeon or PvE. Is it the strongest? No. And there's loads of things you can do before you get this, or even getting other armors as well. But know that you already have something to protect yourself in case something happens. As you saw in the little skit at the start, you can get killed very easily by just roaming mobs, even when you're trying to avoid them. So it's good to already have armor when you get into an area so that you are protected and are able to move forward. These kits, if you're ranked slowly up, you can get these every day. And so if you want to get free apples and free items like that just to utilize or have backups of, this is what you can do. Now remember, all armors as of the season, you are able to fix it, but it will cost you shards. So be mindful of that when you're aiming to get your armor fixed up and upgrading it as well. Now, what can you do with this armor now that you've got it? Well, if you're a normal person and have played this for a while now, you'll do /enchant, and you'll see options that are newly given to you as of this season that is a little bit different than last season, but we can go through them and see what they offer and which one I feel is a good starting point for where you want to go, and then the rest of it can be looked into to investigate for yourself. If you're having difficulty with that and are unable to type, or maybe it's because you're on a bedrock version that doesn't let you type things out, you do have this guy. I personally don't like this guy. I don't know why he's on my island. I don't like NPCs on my island. That's why he's in a cage like the other two. But what you can do is just interact with him, and he'll also let you open the menu for enchanting. And there, you'll be able to, from your basic kit, be able to upgrade your sword, your shovel, your pickaxe, your axe, and then your gear. The bows and the hoe you will have to either find or construct for those to be upgraded, but easy enough. This is a basic vanilla method of building this, and the bow I believe is the same way, or you find it in one of the drops. If you're going to focus on dungeons and PvE, one thing you're going to want to either look into is either a sword or an axe for what you want to do with those fights. Depending on what you prefer and what you want to do, they both have different abilities, but for either one that you want to select, what you want to focus on first is sharpness. You'll see that there's a maximum level of 25, and that's going to be very important because this affects not just mobs, not just bosses, but players as well if you're going to go into PvP. But this is a general damage that is going to be needed for when you do your fights. So this is always the one that you want to upgrade first to increase additional damage. And then you'll see that there's other abilities that help with what you can do, but you'll see they're very specific. This one is chance to spawn a ghost sword that will attack PvE and Dungeons. These don't impact PvP players. This will inflict on skeletons and zombies for a bleeding effect. How a zombie and a skeleton bleed, I have no idea, but that's the ability. Let's go with it. Anyway, this is specific just for skeletons and just for zombies in this instance. So if you want that and you know that those are the enemies that you want to deal with on a regular basis, go for it. There are quite a few of those in the dungeons and a few in the PvE area, so this might be worth it for you. Boss counter, self-explanatory, how many times you defeat a boss. Dark magic, chance to inflict dark magic to wither skeletons and spiders. Again, very specific, but not a general damage. That is why I reiterate that sharpness is something that works well for general use, and the first item you should focus on either for your axe or your sword to increase with the damage. Now, if you're looking to get more resources and additional items from mobs, then what you could add is looting. Looting will assist you with getting an increased drops, so that could be something that you're looking to get. Again, very specific to just mobs. You have double edge. This could be useful in the case where you want to kill multiple mobs, but this is usually more useful in the sense of grinding with a mob spawner than it is actual killing in dungeons. Mob counter counts how many mobs you've killed. Souls is going to be the method where you're most likely going to get shards. If you're going to use this, you want to have this separate on another sword that it focuses on this, so that you do not want to lose it when you are attempting to do PvE or any type of fighting that is outside where you can lose the item. You'll be fine if you use it in dungeons because you don't lose your gear, but I've had too many instances where someone has messaged me and went, oh, I just lost my level 100 soul sword and I have to upgrade this all over again. And already it takes a while to upgrade a soul sword. So please just make two swords, get two swords, have one focused with a bit of sharpness that helps you just enough for grinding, have all the souls that you have on it, and keep that outside of battles so that you always have it back when you need to grind for shards. Very useful. Pro tip, don't lose your sword. And again, it continues. You just have more abilities. Sometimes it'll be a matter of getting health back. This could be very useful and probably one that I like more because it relates to the mobs that you attack. But again, this doesn't relate to PvP. So if you're dealing with someone who is more PvP attacking, this won't do anything for you. Unbreaking is just to increase the durability. You'll see that when you get a higher kit, you're already about halfway there, more than halfway there to up to the maximum level. Know that you should be able to always fix it spending shards, but just be aware when you're getting it pretty high, you've got that going for you, and that's great. Axes have slightly different other abilities as well. You do have abilities that are repeated like bleed, boss counter, but then you've got new ones like cleave. Again, very specific to enemies, but you can see that this is specific for bosses. Now, if you're someone who's dealing with dungeon bosses on a regular basis, this may be something that'll be more interesting for you. So after you've increased yourself for sharpness, cleave might be an ability that'll be more interesting for you because it'll help you with the chance to stun them as well as inflict large amounts of damage in addition. This is great for those, again, focused on the bosses in PvE where all the wither skeletons and slimes and other spiders are located, or in the dungeons when you found the boss room after defeating a lot of the enemies. You'll see that that some of the abilities don't even have anything to do with actual mob. It's actually more for farming, and in this case, it's harvesting pumpkins and melons. So quick recap, just for the weapons, whether it's a sword or axe that you are going to utilize, which could be one or both, depending on what you want to do, make sure that A, you have a backup of it if you're using it, one of them for grinding, and two, that you have the necessary upgrades on it that focuses primarily on damage, and then go for any specifics that are more catering to what you are doing. If you want the axe for pumpkin gathering, maybe it's not the weapon to upgrade also sharpness and use that for different usages. Always just take a look at the enchantments, see what you're looking to do with it, and select the one that you want. But if it's damage you want to do, you want to inflict lots of it to people, sharpness is the way to go, and then go from there. Now, what about armor? You'll notice that armor has two things that will be consistent between each of the armor, and that's protection and that's unbreaking. Unbreaking, similar to with the weapons, it's already about past halfway. You shouldn't need to worry too much about this if you're going to be fixing it when you are done with a round or so. But if you're worried about it and don't want to fix it as often, you can always upgrade these. However, protection is where you want to focus first for all of your armor. When you upgrade that, it will be what protects you the most from the damages that you get, and it doesn't matter what armor you get from the kits that you get from the ranks, or that you even start from scratch and build it out of diamonds from the beginning, you will all have the same protection because they're all diamond armor. I'll talk about an exception afterwards that helps a little bit more, but needless to say, whether you're epic, mystic, overlord, sky god, whatever, so long as it's a diamond armor, it'll have the same defense as any of the other ones. If you look at the other modes, unbreaking, protection has the same thing as well. Pants, unbreaking, protection. Boots, unbreaking, protection. Make sure you focus on getting your protection up so that you get less and less damage so you can survive fights a lot longer. This will help you with the quests that you need to handle. This will help you with some of the grinding that you need to handle through using skills and so on and so forth. So be sure to work on that so you get the least amount of damage. That's going to help you the most in these scenarios. What you'll notice as well is there's specific abilities depending on which part of the armor that you're fiddling with. So in this case, chance to freeze mobs in place. Very specific, but again, this won't protect you. It'll just do potentially a passive thing, maybe, and it'll have a different proc rate for that. If you go for armor, you could do more damage if you're at low health. Mind you, I don't think you ever want to be at low health. You want to maybe reduce knockback. That might be important for you if you feel that you're getting knocked back all the time. So this might be something to consider. You have a chance to dodge mobs or bosses. Again, more defensive stuff, but it is nothing compared to straight up being protected and taking the least amount of damage. What's the point of a chance to dodge if you could just constantly have an increase on the amount of damage you receive? So protection, I can't stress enough, is the starting point of where you need to go. Decrease the damage done by bosses. Very specific and very useful if you are dealing with bosses. Now, if you're someone who's going to be having the cleave ability with the axe, for your pants, you might want to do this so that you end up getting much less damage just from bosses. But just be mindful that this is only for bosses and not for mobs. Now, here's another one that might be very useful in conjunction with hardened steel is that the ability rebound. Again, this is just in case it can proc. It's a chance of it being activated, while this is constant. So protection is still the first thing you want to focus on. Here's a slight difference that is always constant after protection, and that is to increase your jump height and to increase your speed. This is the only exception I think that is useful, is to upgrade your boots to move faster and to jump higher in the areas that you're in, because that'll give you the advantage of getting around the dungeons and around the PvE a little bit better and out of harm's way when you need to. So your boots, I think, are one of the areas where you should be upgrading outside of protection, because the maneuverability is constant and it's there for you as soon as you put them on, and you can utilize it immediately. So to recap, armor, prioritize on protection. You want to make sure that you are protected as much as possible, and you can max all the pieces up to 25 so that you take the least amount of damage, and then you can focus on specializing yourself in the areas that'll help you the most for what you're doing. If you're going to deal with bosses and more fighting in there, then cleave with your axe. Upgrades from your pants could be the way to go for you. If you're dealing with specifically only mobs, for some reason, maybe there's something that's specific for what your grind is about, then pick those things. But no matter which one it is, make sure you're doing protection to save you. Now, what about other armors? I've heard that there's other special armors that you can get. Well, there is. One other kit that you can get, depending on if you've purchased it or you've gotten it from Auction House, is the Grinder Kit. Now this is a good starting kit and something that you could purchase outside of getting a rank that will stick with you between seasons. And that means that you will have this as a starting armor every single time you start playing. This gives you an armor that immediately is already protection 7 and unbreaking 7. This is higher than the other ones already, so that when you enchant, you'll see that it's already higher in the level of unbreaking. And so if you're looking to make sure that you have an armor that doesn't break often, this is one of the ways to go and make sure that you are more than adequately protected without possibly losing your armor or having to repair it fully. So this one's a good set. In addition to that, you'll see that you immediately have a sharpness 7 as opposed to a sharpness 3 from a basic legend sword, or slightly higher sharpness from the other ones. But the grinder sword is pretty much one of the highest to start with, but you'll see that you still need to upgrade it. So the only base damage you're going to really get when you get a grinder sword is what's in the main hand, as opposed to the diamond one, which is only by 1 attack damage. That 1 damage might be a big deal, but it might also not be a big deal. And depending on if you've gotten a sword upgraded already for what you're going to be doing, maybe the grinder sword is not useful at the time that you are going to be using it. But if you've already gotten it and you can upgrade it, go for it. It's what's going to help you move forward. And this is basically what I would call the main armor that you're going to probably use for most of your session during the season. You have an opportunity and a chance to get better weapons and armor if you find them from bosses or PvP deploy crates or other methods, maybe even purchasing or trading it with someone. But be very careful, because some of those could be named as if it's a unique item, but they may not be a unique item in the end. So just be careful, be mindful of the stats that are on it. But generally, the god weapons, as they're so called, or the god armors, they are better protection, they are better useful, but they are hard to get, and you shouldn't wait to rely on getting it until before upgrading anything. You should really get yourself at least up to grinder and then get going, because this will be basically the kit that's going to help you moving forward. And then when you upgrade the crap out of this guy, you're going to be pretty tough and still able to deal with bosses and other damages that you can deal with. So this is really a gear that can set you up on all gears for your battles between PvE and bosses. So I hope that gives you an idea of what you should be doing, but basically a quick recap: use the armor you have. I constantly hear people not attempting to fight or do any of those, and then are bummed out trying to deal with it because they feel that they're not strong enough to handle with things. But you have basically the starting gear that you can utilize to help you move forward in your quest to deal with the mobs that you have to deal with in PvE, to gather the resources and get the chests and even the bosses from the dungeons, and be able to get those resources that'll help you move forward on your island. Don't limit yourself, especially the dungeons, where you can get a lot of robots or keys or additional equipment and just the best gear to help you move forward and get the credits you need on your island just from gathering them from the dungeons. And the dungeons come every hour or so, and so those are great usefulness even if you don't attack the boss. And then for PvE, well, just getting the quests out of the way and dealing with them, and then occasionally fighting the boss can also give you additional items and abilities to gather, as well as really necessary fuel for those that overclock their generator and get the most out of their spawners when they're dealing with the bosses. There's so much fuel that can be gathered, and you can also sell those if you've got too much of it for a nominal price on the auction house to help you get some extra shards that you're just not grinding because you're dealing with the bosses. So keep that in mind. Just focus on at least protection and sharpness for your weapons and armor, and those things will help you massively, and then you can move on to the other upgrades. The only one I think that is worth it immediately after upgrading is upgrading the boots, so that you can have increased jump and increased speed, just so that you can zoomies around the area. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope that's helped a lot of you new players get an idea of what to do with your upgrades, and make sure that you remember that if you are at any rank, you can get those kits on a regular basis every 24 hours and give you a small pouch to help you with any maybe minor upgrades or potential increases for boosters or credits, depending on which pouch you're getting, and that'll help you a lot. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, let us know what other content you feel that is necessary to help you with this season or any other season of Skyblock Sun. We'll be glad to help you out. Have a good one. See you later. Bye. Woo. Hot tub time. Corner hot tub. I've got a corner hot tub. This is not really a hot tub, but I'm gonna sit in it. Yeah.